Can we just say bravo to the IDF and the government of Israel for not doing away with Greta Thunberg today and her band of peace protesters on the flotilla heading to Gaza. They showed exemplary self-restraint. It was not how they approached the situation back in 2010 when many lives were lost on a peace flotilla heading to Gaza. But first things first, let's get to the Donald and the collapse of America. The LA riots is the latest chapter in the collapse of America. So what's happened here? Elon Musk has accused Donald Trump of being a pedophile. That was going to be the big story because he says that he's got the Epstein tapes and Donald is in the Epstein files, therefore he's a pedophile. Donald rejects this, of course, but suddenly a distraction. He calls in the army. Now, people are debating to quell the LA riots, all the Mexicans. Perfect, because there are people flying Mexican flags, they're brown and they're outsiders. That's the propaganda excuse for bringing in the army, the Marines and the state troopers. But I mean, from a PR point of view, why would you do this apart from distraction? Why would you do it? I mean, we've got a story running on the website, we just posted it, by Andrew Gardner, who looks at the decline of tourism to the American market. People are not visiting. There are many anecdotes. Over the year, the numbers are just from Australian tourists are down 7% to the US. In fact, flights are a lot cheaper, so it's happening in the market as well. But, you know, we had somebody this morning, well, Josh, the producer, he's got a muso mate who went to do a gig over in the US. He got arrested and detained for 16 hours at LA Airport, and then sent packing home. And this guy is a blonde Aussie surfer. How would you go having a beard and wearing a keffiyeh? I mean, the stories are legion, the anecdotes are legion. So that 7% drop, that's going to become double figures very quickly with the LA riots. There are serious issues here for America particularly, but and the world, because American tourism is falling off a cliff. American soft power is falling off a cliff. Trump's crackdown on the Ivy League universities, particularly Harvard and Columbia, you know, trying to get rid of foreign students, which is huge revenue for these places. It's not just a revenue equation, though. For generations, people have gone to study at Harvard and Yale and Princeton and these Ivy League universities, and then they've gone back to their countries to lead their countries. And those ties that they made at these universities, long-standing examples of America's soft power and goodwill in the world. Why would you tamper with that? Why would you break that up with all this, we don't want you here, anti-Semitism risk stuff? On top of that, we got Trump's attacks on the courts, the separation of powers, activist judges and all this kind of stuff. This is against the Constitution. America is surely, those people who've warned that America is headed towards autocracy, towards a dictatorship, will be saying, I told you so today. Now they've called in the army to quell riots because the police apparently can't handle it. It's good distraction for the Donald. On top of that, we've got his economic management credentials. Tariffs, just nobody thinks that's a good idea, except Scott Bessant. Tariffs are bizarre. They've driven up prices for American consumers, alienated the whole world, put a stake through the heart of America's economic credibility, and slowed down global economic growth. That's what tariffs do. They're just taxes. Then we've got, on top of that, we've got support for genocide and this whole anti-Semitism thing. So really, there was another one we had this morning. I mean, everybody has their personal stories now. I wouldn't go. You know, I love America. I've been there 20 times. Many American friends, but I wouldn't go to America right now because they might just look at my social media feed and decide that I'm not pro-Israel enough, that I'm not pro-America enough. I mean, this is what they've got the technological capabilities with Palantir and these insidious organisations. This is where the world is going now. The thought police. It's George Orwell, Aldous Huxley predicted all of it. In any case, we had a long-term contributor for Michael West Media ring up this morning and say, hey, listen, can you take my name off the byline for all my stories that I've done? It's a bit of a task. We asked why. This person said, because I'm going to America to visit my son and they might not let me in. They might just decide, just do a social media check or something and, you know, look at the name on Google and just decide, no, we don't like that. So the ripple effects of the Trump administration, this madcap administration, just flowing out all around the world. And China and Russia, of course, are rubbing their hands in glee, saying, we don't have to do anything. These guys are just self-destructing. Canadians, meanwhile, are saying, well, looking at the LA riots, going, well, yep, we don't really want to become the 51st state for you guys. Anyway, back to Greta. Great PR move.
My name is Greta Thunberg and I am from Sweden. If you see this video, we have been intercepted and kidnapped in international waters by the Israeli occupational forces.
Right now they're jamming our comms. They are saying random stuff just to jam our communication.
Meanwhile, though, the reality is the genocide has ramped up since early March when Benjamin Netanyahu broke the ceasefire deal with Hamas. The slaughter has actually, more people are being killed, more women and children than ever, just killing people in tents, hospitals, the whole thing, indiscriminate, putting pressure on them to force them out into the desert. There's no plan apart from being so cruel that they want to leave and somebody will find a solution. Now, where are we up to in this thing? Well, where we're up to is that, we've copped a lot of abuse for being anti-Israel on this thing since the beginning. The tide has turned now with people like Piers Morgan and so on finally getting on board the right side of history. It was after the October 7 Hamas attacks that we came out and saw the brutality of the Israel response and went, this is bad. And we did a piece on YouTube here about the Australian media and the Israeli war machine. And we predicted what would happen, that it would give rise to anti-Semitism, and particularly anti-Zionism, and that it would be destructive for Israel. It was a shot in the foot. Well, a year later, a year after that, we did another piece that was correct. We hate saying, look, we were right and I told you so. It's ugly for somebody to say that. But the fact is we don't get them all right, but we have got this one right. And we're convinced about what's going to happen next. The second one we did was, did more than 100,000 on YouTube in audience. And it was a piece where we said that such was the brutality and such were the lies and so on, that Israel had already lost the war. It had lost the war. Not that Hamas had won, but that Israel had lost. Now that's come to bear as well, and the tide is finally turning against Zionism. So the problem, of course, is that the organs of power in the Western democracies, whether it's Germany, France, UK or Australia, and the corporations are still more tepidly, but still on board the Israel self-defense narrative, even though every day the live stream genocide brings out that they're on the wrong side of history. It is a good thing. It's also absolutely shot the mainstream media because the mainstream media they're still on the 40 beheaded baby stuff. They still haven't apologised for that, the mass rapes, every lie that we don't bomb hospitals lie, every lie that we're not starving Gaza lie. I mean, they're just such blatant lies. They've all been disproven. But, of course, the establishment is still on board. There's going to be a reckoning here. There has to be a reckoning when the children grow up and they ask their parents, Dad, Mum, what were you doing when the genocide happened? And what will they say? I'm going to lie? Oh, I couldn't say much because I was working for this big company and they had a social media policy. I mean, really, if you hide, you're part of the genocide. It's as simple as that. Everybody has a moral, indeed, governments have a legal duty to oppose genocide, to do what they can to stop it. The Australian government is not doing that. We are in contravention of the Geneva Convention, full stop. And so we have it, that we just try to look at the facts here. The kill rate is incredible. The brutality is incredible. The theft of land on the West Bank, daily war crimes. It's not controversial, apart from the Zionist lobby opposing, the truth. It's not controversial. All these things are happening. Daily war crimes and Western governments and organs of power kowtowing to the Israel self-defense line. But it's good to see that now the mainstream media has lost its credibility, that some of these YouTubers who I used to detest before, people like Tucker Carlson, when he was with Fox News, he would have been right on board the genocide. But being off on his own now, and I don't agree with everything Tucker says, he's a proponent of coal and so on, but he's right. He's turned around and said, this is wrong, what's going on here. Piers Morgan flipped. I mean, he's had a cavalcade of hate and vilification from the pro-war lobby, but he's flipped now. He knows what's he's finally admitted it. It took him a year and 18 months to do that, but he's flipped it. People don't want to be on the wrong side of history. Eventually, the truth will prevail.
I was told by the ambassador to UK it was a blood libel for me to suggest that Israel had killed children. Well, last week, 9 out of 10 children in one home where 2 doctors reside were killed in an airstrike.
Well,
what was that?
Remarkable.
Well, what was that?
That has been based.
I got to say, Natasha, I think what you've just said about that family is despicable.
The other one is Joe Rogan. Even good old Joe Rogan is probably the biggest of all, who I don't agree with either, but he's been rational in having people from both sides on and debating it. And so these are where all the eyeballs are going, hundreds of millions of eyeballs to these people, the YouTubers, the podcasters, and the pro-war Zionist propaganda Hasbara crew. They're fading. Too many lies. They've been found out. It's the most epic own goal in political history, in world political history. So they flipped. Meanwhile, the Hasbara continues. Surely now, they're trying to block this guy called Hillel Fuld, a proponent of genocide. They're trying to oppose the Australian government, Albo and Tony Burke's position that you can't come into Australia. This guy is a flagrant cheerleader for genocide, a complete racist. It's just there in public on his Twitter feed. And the Zios are now complaining that, this is free speech. Well, what about Candace Owens, who was opposed to genocide? She wasn't allowed in. They cheered that. The fact is, Zionism is a racial cult and a racist cult. And the problem with it is it will disappear. People often ask, what's it all about? And I reckon it's a toxic mix of this supremacy thing, the idea that we're superior to you, that we're ordained by God, that this land is ours, the whole thing. That's inherently racist. But when you mix that with, and to give the Zionists, some credit here, they were taught this from birth. They were taught that they're better than other people. And they've taught, it's in their scriptures, in the Torah. And they were taught that they are victims, the Holocaust, etc. Well, they've trashed the memory of the Holocaust now. That's trashed. They've used this over the years as a shield and sometimes as a money thing as well. That's no longer available to them now, in my view. They've lost too much credibility, and the good Jewish people are stepping up for the peace movement and saying enough is enough. And so everyone knows it's not about Jew haters or anti-Semitic. Palestinians are Semitic. It's about Zionists. The Zionist project now has to be dismantled. And in my view, that's the next step. It will be. There's so much opprobrium around the world. Unfortunately, still not enough from the organs of power, the large corporations and Western governments, including Australia. Anyway, like, share and comment in the section below, and we'll catch you on the next round.